And welcome to the Wednesday Night Live here on Inside Texas, joined by Mr. Joshy Manning Esquire and Nash Talks Texas. Nash is battling through some flu gate with us here. Hey, he's battling. So shout out to these guys for joining me on a Wednesday night. It is the off season. Still have plenty of content to cover. Um, Big topic right now is Texas, and maybe being under more pressure to win this season than anybody else. If not, definitely one of the top handful of schools that come to mind, and I think that's a fair claim. But let's get into it. Talk about why there's so much pressure on Texas to win, and it's Texas and Sarkeesian. Are they gonna feel that pressure? That's a big part of what maybe we didn't do a really good job of handling in 2025. But we'll get into all of that in just a moment. Hop on over to Inside Texas if you haven't done so yet. Take advantage of that new member only sale. $1 will get you signed up and hanging out with the boys on a daily basis. All types of content being posted over there, as well as over here on YouTube. And so come check it out. Come hang with us if you haven't done so yet. I know a lot of y'all are out there already on the boards with us. All right, guys. Everyone doing okay?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. I mean, I'm in admiration right now of Nash doing his Jordan game, man. This is the Jordan flu game right here.
Yeah, just the guy on a YouTube stream at home.
Hey, dude, everyone's got one of them, man.
Is the altitude in Salt Lake City and YouTube is it the same? Does it compare at all? So I don't think we talk about that. Jordan did that at altitude too, man. Pretty impressive. But no, what's up, CB? Appreciate you being here, my man. As always, showing some support and love, representing the old Crash Out crew. But no, okay, let's talk about it, man. So I think it's fair to sit there and say, Texas has as much, if not more, pressure than anybody else on them to win. I think it'd be a different topic if you were to talk about hot seat, and so we can kind of split those two up. But let's start with the hot seat. Do either of you gentlemen think Sarkeesian is in maybe not the hottest seat out there in college football, but you see some talk, other media talking about him being maybe one of the first handful of coaches, as far as hottest seats in that regard. What are y'all's takes? Y'all think Sark has is that seat warm at all, or is that crazy talk?
So, I'm kind of one of the very few people who's going to go out on a limb and tell you that I don't think Steve Sarkeesian's the head coach next year, regardless of the outcome. So I don't think his seat is really hot in terms of like he's going to get fired or anything, right? I think if he hits expectations and he wins a national championship or does something equivalent, right, gets to the finals or the CFP championship, I think he's probably taking a head coaching gig in the NFL or taking or just an NFL job in general. I think if he doesn't meet expectations, I think it's going to kind of be a mutual buyout. But I wouldn't say that his seat is hot necessarily. I think there is an exit plan that he probably has. And, it kind of ties into the first question about expectations and also kind of roster management, which I don't think a coach would like just kind of what the roster moves has done, doing what he's done with the depth and kind of rotating out and cycling out a lot of guys who probably are going to get a shot next year. I don't think he'd do that if he were coming back. That's just my 2 cents on it. So I think the hot seat question isn't really a moot question because I think either outcome, I think he's gone.
Yeah, I mean that's fair to say. It's not, maybe hot seat is not the best way to describe it, but maybe it's kind of what you just said. How secure are we that Sark is around for a while longer? And Ash, any thoughts on that, bud?
Yeah, I can't get behind like a hot seat deal with, especially when you're looking at if there's any issues with Steve Sarkisian not winning a national championship or anything like that. It's a product from his own success at Texas, and I would just if he is anywhere close to being on a hot seat, I would caution whoever the decision makers are that hey, we got rid of Mac Brown and we went through Charlie Strong and Tom Herman. That's very easy to go through again. So I would put a lot of caution into that.
I also think there's a difference between, and I get what you're saying, but I trust CDC with coaching hires as opposed to the last couple regimes, which I don't think handled coaching hires very well. But like I see what you're saying, but like I think in the NIL era, I think it's really hard to get to a point to where Texas would be in that position of 5-6, 5-7, 6-7, just with NIL alone. I think you'd be able to build a roster that's like an 8-4, 9-3 roster just on talent alone. The question there is like, does coaching take you to that next level? But like, I see what you mean.
I mean, I'm also going off of over the last 5 years, Steve Sarkisian's been one of the best coaches in college football, and I'm talking like out of 5 names.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just so it's hard to even get to that level or better. So it's like I do have my issues with the whole NFL talk going on because there's less security in the NFL when you're looking at the head coaching jobs, but also to get paid as much as he's getting paid at the university, he would have to be willing to take a pay cut unless they're willing to do something that hasn't been done before. Because as of right now, there's no. Well, I'd have to look at the updated data, but the last time I looked at it, there was no coach making what Steve Sarkisian is yearly that hasn't won a Super Bowl or been on. That hasn't won a Super Bowl as a head coach. So it would have to be a unprecedented move, or I have a hard time seeing it.
No, I'm with you on that, man. And again, hot seat's not, what you're hearing from Austin media necessarily or anything on Inside Texas. You're not going over and reading the boards, but that's what you're seeing. It's off season. Again, everybody loves the list. Got to have a list every day.
Texas puts a lot of clicks on that list.
True. And it's really easy to get that interaction when you have Texas's name up there, especially maybe in a place that's not entirely accurate. And so, yeah, that's the thing, man. Like at one time, in making your point, Josh, if 2 seasons ago, Sark talking about, rumbles about Sark NFL, Sark Alabama, there was a time where I was, man, that brought me great fear because of the last couple of regimes. I don't think we're super impressed with Steve Patterson, with all due respect to that man, and then it didn't feel like CDC was forced to hire Tom Herman, but that was a unique situation where everybody wanted the up and coming guy. Literally, almost everybody that had a vacancy right there was willing to take him. And let's
be honest. Tom Herman got hired because he beat Oklahoma. We hadn't been able to beat Oklahoma for a really long time. And Houston, when they beat Oklahoma, and our big money donors were like, "That's what we want."
Well, and it also made sense too. I mean, look, like he was calling his own plays, and we saw what he was doing at Houston, and we saw everything before that. We wanted some sort of offense, right? Yeah, that's true. But we wanted a high-flying offense after 3 years of literally not having a quarterback. We wanted something new, and I think that's why Tom Herman and also Mike Parents-Fair. But I do think that is also a factor in why and it also makes sense. The prodigal son returns, blah blah blah. It made sense at the time.
No, I mean, it definitely made sense. And again, people are definitely not as appreciative of Sarkisian and what he's done at Texas. I mean, making Chris's point here, going into that title year, I mean, there was a ton of people that were already past Mac Brown in that experience because of one Saturday in October. He just couldn't beat him. It's a miserable Saturday for 5 years in a row. I mean, it was awful. You get beat 63-14. You get beat 14-3. You get beat 35-24. You get beat 65-13, and then you could be 12-0. Very common theme in there is that Texas was not scoring any points. Obviously, gave up a ton of 2 in some spots, but just it was dreadful to watch our offense go up against that defense until Vince Young got there. Obviously, changed things a little bit. But even in the play that everybody likes to talk about Vince Young, there's that one football account. It's like football's greatest moments, I think it is, and they love to be like Vince Young was so unstoppable at Texas. True, but please stop posting the highlight from his freshman year in a game that we lose by 52 points. I'm just saying. Sorry, I couldn't pass that up. It drives me insane. But yeah, making y'all's point, Texas is going to be well better positioned with Chris Del Conte at the helm as far as making these hires. Just look across the Texas globe as far as who he's brought on in those sports, from Mike White softball, obviously the great coup, and Jim Schlossnagel and bringing him over from A&M. Sean Miller has the boys cooking in year one. I said that team might win 2 conference games, and I'm eating my words. So, yeah, it's definitely, trust him. And definitely seems like the NFL would be the bigger threat to Texas, and Texas losing Sarkisian, of course. But again, if people are wanting Sark, I mean, that's pretty positive sign for all you negative Nellies out there who love to scream about how he has no clue what he's doing. He doesn't have the right culture. He's lost a program, doesn't know how to call plays, yada, yada. We all can make, we all have quips at times, and we want to bring things up. But Sark is coveted. And as Nash just said, he's been a top 5 coach in college football. And with that being said, I think, and got to get your guys' opinion, but would love the chat's opinion as well. But how much does having Arch Manning in your back pocket as your QB1, how much does that amplify the pressure on Sark and Texas to get things done this year? Just because it is Arch, and we know what comes with that name, the expectations. And again, it feels like everybody else kind of just setting us up to the moment that anything goes wrong. They could be the first to pile on and see how high the body count can get. But what are y'all size Arch Manning around? How much does that really, really put pressure on Sark to get it done this year and with this in particular team?
I mean, immense. Like this is Texas, for better or for worse, Texas as a brand is a national brand. ESPN is going to talk about us. Fox, whoever is going to talk about Texas is going to do it because it brings in clicks. Add Arch Manning onto that in his last year, which is going to be the best team as a talent composition wise that Texas has accumulated in 20 years. Probably, more talented than the 05 roster. I know, shocking, kill me, whatever. But I mean, this is college sports is really a narrative-driven business, right? Is there any narrative that's bigger than Arch Manning going into his last year as the Heisman frontrunner with a coach who has amassed this talented roster? I don't think so. Can you think of any other? I mean, like Dante Moore coming back to Oregon for one more year pales into comparison as a narrative to Arch, right? Sark has been near the mountaintop twice. Dan Lanning hasn't, right? Sark has been there twice, and there have been 2 plays that have separated Sarkisian from a national championship appearance. And I would guarantee you one of those plays being the Ohio State 1st and goal, right? That results in a national championship win. I'd put money on it that we beat Notre Dame, and I'd put a lot of money on it. And, to kind of top it all off as well, there's the narrative that's running around right now about Sark and developing quarterbacks, right? I mean, lesser programs say, oh, look at what he did with Quinn Ewers as the number 1 overall quarterback, and now he's a 7th round draft pick, blah, blah, blah. That also adds on to the pressure because we have to see, and we have seen an Arch growth, but this season has to be the ultimate, I don't know what you want to call it, the blossoming, like the highest version of Arch we're going to get has to be this season. So I think like the narratives, along with the fact that, we're that close, we've been that close twice. Yeah. There's everyone else pales in comparison.
Agreed. Well said, Nash. Any thoughts?
Yeah. I think this is a situation where just the name of Manning adds way too much pressure. Because I'll just say I've heard some really strong marks about Diabell, and it's ironic that Arch Manning may not be the most talented quarterback that we see under Steve Sarkisian on the 40 acres. Now, Arch Manning's name is going to bring a lot more fanfare. They're going to bring a lot more clicks, and that's to what Joshy said earlier. Is just whether it's right or wrong, the pressure just because his name is Manning is going to be immense. And when you're looking at the quarterback position, I think back to like guys like a Marvin Harrison or something like that. Like there's some names that are very few people that, hey, just because you have a last name, there's going to be a lot of pressure on you to perform and pressure on the coaching staff to get this player to perform. That only gets multiplied when you're looking at the quarterback position, which is the most important position in college football. Not just college football, but all football. So whether it's right or wrong, I do agree that there's going to be a lot of pressure with, to get this done with Arch Manning. But yeah, there's some pretty good quarterbacks that we got coming up. So.
I mean, I love Diabell. I think I'm big on that train, but also, it just feels like this is so much rides on this year. Between obviously, how real of a program is Texas as far as competing for titles. What does Sark look like with the NFL in that future? Because you're always going to hear scuttle about it. You know what I mean? It feels like now is like an every offseason type thing, especially if he doesn't get, say they don't get it done this year. And people will say, oh, well, it's an easy cop-out for him. It's just a hop to the NFL. Definitely adds a lot of pressure when you have Arch. And, you have the type of season that you had last year. It might be one thing if Texas went to the semifinals and lost to a really good Indiana team or lost in a crazy game to Miami or Ole Miss, who was there waiting. You know what I mean? But when you go 9-3, you miss the playoffs. Our struggles for the first half of the season, the offense, Sark's baby struggles for a lot of the season. I definitely think there's a lot of pressure on like, hey, to get this right, and not just from like outside of Austin, but inside of Austin as well. The fans are going to want to see a little bit better of a product. You have so much money invested in this team. People are spending bukus of dollars just to attend games nowadays. You've got the playoff games, in which obviously Texas goes and supports and shows out for those as well. So, like, I think just as a whole, like there is a lot of pressure. But Dan, Josh, you mentioned Dan Lanning, like he's got to be feeling, I would think, every bit as much pressure up in Oregon, because you turn around and, like, sure, you make the college football playoffs, but Jesus Christ, like, do we want to talk about what's happened when you've played a Power 4 team in those conference playoffs or those college football playoffs? Like, non-existent,
Right.
no show. Like the beatings that we were talking about, Texas taken by Oklahoma's hand in the early 2000s, that is what's happening to Oregon in the playoffs. Maybe worse, between what Ohio State did to them and Indiana did to them. I mean, those games were over after 20 minutes of ball play. Like they were done, cooked. And so, like, they loved, again, Texas is going to drive interaction. It's going to drive a lot of clicks. But at the same time, there are other coaches, I think, that are feeling a lot of pressure as well. And so we'll keep talking pressure, not just Texas, maybe some other schools as well, and getting into it. But first, we're going to hear a quick word from our sponsor, Mr. David McClellan.
Big financial decisions don't have to feel overwhelming. There's someone who can guide you every step of the way. David McClellan is a fiduciary financial advisor with Forum Financial, and he's working closely with his clients as a true financial life coach, guiding every aspect of your financial journey with expertise and care. If his name sounds familiar, that's because David was a swimmer at Texas and a member of several national championship teams. Today, he channels that same championship mindset into helping people win with their finances. David specializes in financial planning, and he's contributed numerous articles to Kiplinger on the topic of retirement tax bombs. And right now, David is offering viewers a free intro consultation to assess your financial situation. Do not miss this chance to get personalized guidance from a trusted expert. To schedule your free consult, email David at dmcclellan@forumfinancial.com, or you can call him directly at 312-933-8823. The contact info is in the description.
Alrighty. And so, yeah, I mean, picking back up with Dan Lanning in Oregon, like that's a different pressure. You got to prove that you can belong. I mean, kind of the same way I'm sure that, Indiana fans felt going into the college football playoffs. There's like, hey, if we go and lose by a 30 spot again, I mean, not that they did. I know they battled back in the second half in South Bend year before last, but it's a thing for everybody. And so I think Texas, or people outside of Texas, they want Texas to feel like, oh my gosh, like the glass is going to break at any moment. Like they have the heap of the world on their shoulders. And I don't think that's the case. I think you have a lot of schools that are going to have to go prove, a lot of individual players. Like, talk about our rival quarterbacks. I guarantee you they're going to feel a lot of pressure to step up and show, like, hey, I'm not who I was at the end of last season, or I'm not who I was against Texas in October. I don't know, a lot of different pressure points out there for a lot of different college football players, because, I mean, again, you have so much money going into this, so many resources. Like, at some point, you got to step up. Now, let me ask you this. With Texas and Sark, what constitutes a failure of a season? Is it missing the college football playoffs? Is it 9 wins? Because, I mean, it's a tough schedule. You know what I mean? Like, let's say you go lose 3 ball games and you do so by a combined 11 points, and the games are at LSU, Oklahoma, and Ohio State. You know what I mean? Is that is that failure to you guys? Is it all about the win total? Are you guys on the playoff college football committee? I must ask.
Well, yeah. If we go 9-3, even with that close of losses, I have no faith in the committee to put us in the playoffs. None whatsoever. This is a purely, and this is where there's been a lot of content that's been going around on Twitter and all that stuff lately, where it's ridiculous. If Texas is 10-2, right, and because this is what the committee is looking at first off is, and my personal theory is that they're not even looking at anything. They're just looking at the BCS ranking. What would the BCS have us as, and then we'll make some small changes from there. So, winning games, winning in style points, that's going to matter a lot, right? I have no faith in a 9-3 Texas. I don't care how good. I don't care if all the losses are by half a point. I don't care. That
Is that
being said,
failure to
I
you?
would.
Like, knowing that the committee is going to likely operate that way and think that way? I mean, like, is it just like, well, Texas has to be better than that? Is that, I mean, where?
Yeah, I mean, like it's just. I think that at that point, it's the way that I view it is the same as in baseball. When you got an umpire that's got a horrible strike zone, you can't after the first time around, you can't complain about the strike zone anymore. The strike zone's a strike zone. You adjust to what it is, right? So I think you just got to play their game, right? And that's you just got to find a way to go out there and get to 10 to it or better. And I would say at 9-3, missing the playoffs, where we don't even look competitive in those 3 games. That's absolutely a failure.
Agreed.
I would my cop out would be if we're losing 1-point game, like if we're losing some really close games and we're playing some really good football, and we just get left out of the playoffs again, I would hesitate to call that a failure, but my initial overall reaction would be if we miss the playoffs, that would be a failure.
100%, unequivocally. Like that is the basement that is 6 feet underwater, bare minimum that this team needs to hit. Like I'm going to take a different approach, and I'll kind of answer going backwards. So the committee talk, we can talk about how stupid these guys are. I don't care. That's fine. You're going to lose the game. I mean, this is their game. They're the only game in town, so we got to play it. But 10 wins in the SEC is the number, right? If you don't get there, you're probably not getting in. Just bar none.
Vanderbilt.
Well, right, but let's just go play Chattanooga State every year, whatever. I don't that's doesn't really matter to me. But the question of what is a failure, you kind of have to take everything into an amalgamation. This has to be a holistic review, right? One, we gutted our depth to go get the starting guys, right? We got studs in the portal. We have at least 6, maybe 7 draft guys that came in the portal this year, in addition to Arch Manning, Wingo, Gooseby, Baker to an extent, Colin Simmons, Jelani McDonald, those guys, right? Like Ty Anthony Smith. This is a all-in type move, right? You're putting all the chips in and you're saying, hey, like either, we have the flush or we don't, right? And so to me, when you invest that much money into a roster in a year where you should be having a Heisman winning or at least Heisman discussed about quarterback, you have 2 running backs who are just really, truly explosive. You've done fine rebuilding the offensive line. I can't talk about that without getting an aneurysm. You have probably the most deadly receiving core at least in the SEC for sure. But would you put Jeremiah Smith versus Smith, Ennis, and I guess is it going to be Chris Henry against Wingo, Mosley, and Cam Coleman? Like, there's an argument at the very least. I'm kind of just of the opinion like you have to be in the Final Four. That is to me, like, I would walk away and we had a really competitive game with like Notre Dame where they won on a last second field goal or whatever. I'd be like, damn, that sucks. But, that's not a miserable season. I am kind of the opinion, though, that I think this is a national championship or bust. I think anything less than that is kind of a failure, just given like what we've done, the amount of money that's gone into this roster, the fact that we threw PK out, who was leading, a top 20 defense, to trade him in for a guy in Will Muschamp. I mean, and now we're paying him $3.6 million. I mean, the amount of money that's going into this team is freaking absurd. And so my opinion is, look, if you're making all these moves and you're doing it, like, you got to be at the top. Like, and that's okay. Like, and this may get clipped by other fan bases. We're at the University of Texas. Like, it's not a bad thing for us to say we should be competing for national championships every single year in every single sport. That's just my 2 cents on it.
No, I agree with a lot of that, man. I'm gonna break it down in 2 parts because I like what you said there, where at the end where you think it's a national championship or bust here. For me, it's just like get in the door. Be one of the 12 teams. 9-3 we've seen may not do it. 10-2, would be a lock to get in.
Yep.
But again, how does Texas look if they were to drop 3 games. So yes, missing the playoffs to me is a complete failure. But once you're in that door and you're sitting there with 11 other teams, I'm going to like where Texas stacks up, barring health, with anybody else there. And so then again, I agree with you again. It becomes, in my mind, a national championship or bust. It's just so hard to call it that because I am scared of that schedule. As you made the reference about the officiating or the official or the umpiring behind home plate, and it's one thing to have an Angel Hernandez back there and to have a Kershaw on the mound or whoever, and then to have like me back there on the mound. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
Big 12 teams have me on the bump while SEC schools are sitting there prime Greinke or whoever you want to do. Sorry, I'm old. All right, going back in time for my baseball pitching references. But no, so like that's the only argument I would have with that. And so I want to talk real quick about it, and I think we'll all feel the same. But obviously Texas canceled their Arizona State game. Haven't been on camera since they did so. What are y'all's quick thoughts on it? I'll share mine. And is this something that you want to see Texas continue to do down the line? Me and Josh are part of a group chat together where we talked about Arizona State not necessarily being a marquee matchup. And I'm going to sit here and say that again.
Well, for certain schools it is. There's a certain school who's playing them next year where Arizona State is a marquee matchup for them because they're equal programs, but not for us.
That's fair. But yeah, thoughts on the cancellation of the Arizona? Personally, I was excited to go to Scottsdale here in 5 or 6 years and get some extra Scottsdale golf in it because it's undefeated. But what are y'all's thoughts about them canceling the matchup with the Sun Devils?
I don't care. Like I just don't care. Arizona State is like, so I guess 2 things. One, like, FSU or Miami or like a really cool, like a good pro USC, someone like that. Like, I'm like, okay, like that would kind of suck. But like at this point, what the committee has told us is very clear. It's 10 wins and it really doesn't matter how you get there. So like, why would we do these out of conference games and I don't think we have a realistic shot of losing to Arizona State, but why even like, what do we gain out of playing it? Like if we win, okay, congratulations. You beat a mediocre Big 12 team. Great. If we lose it, it's like, oh my God, Maryland all over again. Right. But even worse in the playoff like era. So I don't see a benefit from playing the Arizona State. Like I like playing Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame. I really like playing those guys. Arizona State doesn't move the needle to me. It's the same game as if we were to play like, I don't know, UTEP or like Yeah, it just doesn't matter to me. I don't care.
Barry and Kenny Dillingham and the Sun Devils. I like it. Nash, what about you? Does that mean a little more than UTEP for you, or do you care at all?
I think this is such a big non-issue. One to what Josh has said. It's the committee has clearly told us, hey, you get to for all the people that say last year if Texas goes and plays Texas State or somebody instead of Ohio State, and we're 10-2, that we still lose to Florida, and we're not in the play. Alabama lost to Florida State in a really, really embarrassing game. They still got into the playoffs. 5-7 Florida State. So
Indiana almost lost to Penn State. I mean, like it happens.
We
were the team that it happened to. Like it's stupid. This argument of, well, you still lost to Florida. Well, great. Like we beat the number 3 team who couldn't score a touchdown at home against and then we went on and beat OU who beat Bama, and like this is just such an exhausting conversation about, well, you lost to Florida. Well, yeah, no shit, we shouldn't have lost to Florida. Like I get that, but at the same time, like my goodness, right? Look at what happened at the end of the season compared to the beginning of the season. 2 different teams.
Well, and to me, it really comes down to when they talk about quality wins, right? Last year, not only was Texas the team with the most top 25 wins heading into the college football playoff against top 25 opponents, and I believe that's whether you want to look at top 25 at the time of the game or top 25 at the time of the poll when the playoffs was getting announced. Texas was the first team since 2019 LSU to beat 3 top 10 teams. And I just like that you're very hard pressed to find a team that had more quality high end wins than Texas did last year. but we had those 3 losses, and it's just, to me, also, when you're looking at Arizona State, I think that this could even also be like a Arizona State once out of the ball game. Now, I get that some of these games I'm about to bring up probably are because there's conference games, and with the future conference scheduling, they had to adjust some things, but they'd also canceled series with Stanford, Florida, and I know this isn't high level, but Bowling Green and Texas. I mean, like, these are Arizona State's been canceling a lot of games, and I think that this one really makes more sense for Arizona State than it does for Texas, because there's a higher percentage chance that Arizona State is going to lose to Texas more often than not. So them avoiding having to play Texas is better for their chances in the Big 12 to make it into the college football playoff, sort of how almost like a BYU almost did, right? So I think that this is more an Arizona State talking point than a Texas one, which is really ironic considering all the hoopla that's been going on around on Twitter from a certain On3 dude. It really is dumb. I can't find another way to say it, because it's, to what Josh you said, it's. I mean, this is clearly, if it is from the Texas standpoint, I mean, it's crystal clear right now. You get to 10-2, you get to 10 wins, and then that's it. So there's zero reason to play a tough non-conference game, and I'm being very liberal, or being very generous, and or whatever you want to do with the word tough when I'm talking about playing Arizona State in a non-conference game. It's just, it's far from playing like Ohio State, and like some people have mentioned Alabama. I really can't get behind the all the issues that have been made with this cancellation, but it's really, at this point, you've seen Georgia canceling games, you've seen other top end programs canceling games. It's very simple. You get to 10 wins, and the rest is history. And to be honest, for all the, oh, well, what about these environments that you had in the very beginning of the season that were so amazing and all that? Yeah, great. You know what I also enjoyed? I enjoyed the heck out of going and watching the Clemson game at the University of Texas. I'd rather watch Texas play a non-conference opponent at the end of the year than beginning of the year.
Well, and like one more, like this just came to mind, and like,
you're good.
In the year 2030, nobody's going to remember, oh my God, did you remember when Texas canceled Arizona State and replaced him with Stephen F. Austin? Oh my God, I can't believe that. And they went to the Final Four, but no, they canceled Arizona State. So this is like not what's it called? This is spoiled goods, whatever. No one cares. Like, no one cares. This is going to be such a non-issue in 2 years, except for one fan base who's going to be like, oh, the pride and tradition of the University of Texas, and they're all just backing out of these tough non-conference games. Like, no one cares. This is the dumbest talking point. I'm sorry. It's just,
well, and let's also be honest too. This is a product of the offseason. Texas is one of the few schools that can get this much clicks.
Yeah, I mean, we drive a lot. I mean, it is what it is. And yeah, I can already see A&M beating Arizona State next year and saying, we beat the teams that y'all are afraid to play. And again,
what they'll do is if they lose, they're going to be like, oh yeah, Texas was right because they knew they were going to lose to Arizona State too. They're just, it's the talk. It's going to be, what's going to happen, and they're stupid. Texags, they're going to have TX apostrophe A apostrophe S. Sorry, no free ads. They're going to have a clip on or a thread on there where it's going to be like, oh my God, we beat Arizona State. Texas is just running from them, and it's going to be 5,000 threads long, and who's going to make a ton of money off that thread.
I mean, honestly, I'm with you guys. So, I mean, Arizona State just doesn't move the needle for me. To piggyback your comment, Josh, like that it wouldn't be one of the first 15 or 20 opponents if they're like, hey, dude, go make our non-conference schedule with Power 4 schools for the next 20 years.
Right.
It doesn't do it for me. With all due respect to Tempe, Arizona, like that's not a place that's like super daunting environment wise. And if Texas is going to make a road trip against the Power 4, like, again, I'm more excited about the golf than I would be the football, full transparency there.
Well,
yeah,
and
I mean, honestly, I'm more upset about not going to Tempe or Scottsdale, Arizona than not playing Arizona State.
But even according to your point, right? Like, if you're going to play a Power 4 opponent, right, who, you want a decently, not a guaranteed win, but you want like a decently okay competition, go to places where you're recruiting. Go to Florida. Go to North Carolina. Go to California. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be playing Miami, but you can go play, I don't know, UCF, whatever. Go to UNC. Go to, Cal, whatever. Don't go to Cal. We don't want to do that. But, someone else. Like, you go to places where you're recruiting because you want those guys to see Texas football. You don't go to Arizona because there's no, like, you have what? We're recruiting Noah Roberts out of there, and that's like it. Just go places where you have guys that you're recruiting.
Well, let's do our second sponsor break of the night. Get a word from Luxe Kitchen and Bath. But while we're on break, guys, I want y'all to think of, and chat, anyone watching, I want y'all to comment and let me know your top 3 teams you'd like to see Texas schedule out of conference games with. Obviously, it can be anybody. Any conference outside of the old SEC. We'll be right back.
Are you ready to love your kitchen and bathroom again? Luxe Kitchen and Bath will bring that to life. Luxe has been offering high-end kitchen and bathroom remodels for 3 generations throughout the greater Austin area. With 5-star review after 5-star review on Google and Facebook and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, you can put your faith in Luxe Kitchen and Bath's award-winning designers and skilled craftspeople to bring your dream vision to life. But that's not all. Luxe's all-star team also provides full home remodels, large additions, and even commercial build-outs as well. So call Luxe Kitchen and Bath at 833-358-LUXE today, or visit luxekitchenbath.com to discover where quality meets luxury and begin the process of transforming your home. Get your free quote today by calling 833-358-LUXE. That's LUXE, or by visiting luxekitchenbath.com. Contact info is in the description.
Alrighty, guys. So give me your one at a time, or but all together. I don't care. Give me your 3 teams you'd like to see Texas play out of conference. If you're still watching out there, throw a comment. Let us know who you'd like to see. Chris Bennett says he wants to see a little bit of Florida State. That'd be a fun.
That's number one. That's number one.
Yep. And then Mr. Air Force kid, so you get a little Air Force, man. I like favorite. That's my favorite of the academies. I don't know what it is, but I'm an Air Force guy myself. Not real, but I'll root for the old Falcons. All right, guys. What about y'all? I got my first one. I mean, Josh, you said Florida State. Florida State was on my list too. I mean, yep. I love the old war chant. I like Doak Walker. I'd try to say his name, but I'd butcher it. The chief that throws the spear into the ground. I mean, like it's a cool scene. And then again, pretty decent football up until as of late.
UNC is one of them because I think we're getting a big recruiting base out in North Carolina, and those are some really talented kids. I like that. And I don't necessarily love this for the purposes of there's really no other reason other than I want to go to Camp Randall, but I think Wisconsin would be a lot of fun to do that. If we're doing West Coast, I know this is a little bit of I'll give you 2. PTSD, I want to go to Washington. That stadium is crazy. Mm-hmm. And then I would also say Stanford. That'd be my generic list. I could probably think of others, but that's when I say that, maybe Miami's there, but I don't really care to play Miami. So those are my 5.
I like it. Nash, you got a few?
Yeah. I'd really like to go see Texas play Penn State. I'd like a home and home with Penn State. Just going to, especially if they have a night game wide out there like that, that's just one of those environments that you really want to see as a college football fan. Mm-hmm. I'll take that Air Force one because I really like Air Force's program from baseball. But I really like Air Force, so I can't disagree with that one. USC would be another one. I think that there's a lot of tradition between these 2 programs, and also if we still have Steve Sarkisian, there's obvious ties with that. And I'm blanking on this other one. I just had it in my head. Oh yeah, West Virginia. I want my lick back on West Virginia, man. I hate him. I hate him so much. I want my lick back.
Man, that's a fun matchup. I do like old country roads. Like the whole color. I like the USC one. I'm big on Texas playing. I like the matchups with USC and Notre Dame. Not obviously on an annual basis, but every now and then I like to see them in the rotation. I'm always big on Michigan. Now I know we just played Michigan twice in a span of 2 seasons, so the allure is not really as high as it would be for me normally. But like I think our whites in their maize and blue uniforms are like the absolute sickest combination of uniforms in college football that you'll find. I think it's so elite.
John, I
Yeah.
never want to see Maryland again. I have zero desire to see those stupid turtles ever again. I was in school when that happened. Never again. That is never happening. I can't do it. Blacksburg going to Virginia Tech. That'd be cool.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
I'd love to see, piggybacking Nash and Chris, like I'd love to see Penn State and Texas. I know they beat us in the Fiesta Bowl after we upset Nebraska in that Big 12 championship game. But that's the granddad played at Penn State. I think the uniforms, I love the simplicity of the Penn State helmet. I think it's sick as hell, to be honest. But yeah, man, I don't know about this. I don't know if we can do that again. It was a really, really tough 2 years. Giving up 51 at DKR. In Herman's first game, I mean, we should have known. We should have known then in that moment. But yeah, hell of a way to start. And then you go up there and you lose to that Maryland team in the middle of all the issues that they were having. And again, no head coach, terrible news for the player passing, and just like it's like we're just getting owned by the Maryland Terrapins. And I'm not talking about the early 2000s Maryland Terrapin basketball squad and program that was a threat to win it all year in and year out. But I'll ask you a comment on this. Mr. John is asking, he said he could not get on board with Ian saying earlier that this receiving squad is comparable to 2020 Bama. Yeah.
I'm with you.
Devontae, Mechie, Waddle, Ruggs. They're deep. They're really, really good. Even the young guys were awesome.
But here's the thing. We don't have to be that good. Our offense doesn't need to be that good. I'd love it to be that good, but we don't need to be that good to win Natty.
Let me pop it back up. Let me just let's compare. You know what I mean? I don't know if Cam Cohen hasn't had the opportunity, to put up the type of numbers that like a Devontae Smith, obviously, or Mechie, some of those guys in that one particular year for Bama. Like this is going to be a far better situation for Cam Coleman as a pass catcher. And so I don't really like what is his ceiling as far as what he can do. I still think he and Texas, are going to be learning that because I don't think it's been with Jackson Arnold and Peyton Thorne, at Auburn. So, well, then you go to the next type of guy and you're looking at Ryan Wingo, who is probably the better athlete of a Mechie. Jalen Waddle, I mean, again, it's a pretty special player, but you're splitting hairs with a lot of these guys. And so, like, we'd have a lot to prove. You'd have to see Emmett Mosley, who had a really big freshman year for Stanford. You'd have to see him stay healthy. I could see it. I mean, you'd need like a Jermaine Bishop, like maybe to kind of come in immediately and make a little bit of an impact. Khalil Lockett, like there's ways where at the end of the season I could be like, wow, man, that is a pretty comparable room. I know just from what we've seen with our eyes so far, like I understand why you'd have a little trouble believing that. But Ian saying that gives him some confidence. I will say that. Any thoughts or comments on this wide receiver core compared to the old Bama 2021?
I can get behind it. I mean, I just like to what you said about Cam Coleman. I don't think there's a single person on this earth that knows what Cam Coleman's going to be capable of this year. Just when I was putting together his every play, I didn't realize that the guy had 3-4 different quarterbacks that they had a 40-yard max depth on their throws. Right? Like, I mean, like the amount of times that this dude was wide open. I mean, like talking about like just butt naked, wide open. The amount of times that he was running down the field. Yeah, no, I Brian Clark reference. The amount of times I've watched him been running, and then he's like, he has to do a U-turn to come back to the football. That's just not going to happen this year with Arch Manning.
I mean, he could have had 220 yards receiving against Oklahoma if they could have thrown one anywhere on the same planet as a guy.
Yeah,
and then that's not even diving into the whole. Hey, he's running extremely simple routes only. Yeah. Right? Like, so there's multiple levels that I could see it happening. See him having just some absurd season. I could see that happening. Ryan Wingo, we talked about it before. I think that if he continues to catch the football with his hands like he did, he had those bad drops versus Georgia. And then after that, we saw him using his hands the rest of the way through the season. And if we get that Ryan Wingo for a full season, I'm really confident in the stuff that we're going to see from him. His yards after the catch is insane. And I think that if you have those two dudes going, you're going to open up a lot for him and Mosley. So I could see it, but yeah, and I'm not going to claim to know as much football as Ian, so I'll get behind Ian on this one.
I'll say this. I think two things have to happen. I think one, you're exactly right, Cord, that they're going to need somebody who we're not necessarily expecting to be a massive weapon to be a weapon, right? Whether that's Jermaine Bishop, whether that's Khalil Lockett, Dalen McCutcheon, one of those three guys has to be a guy who makes him who essentially would be a wide receiver 1B, 1C on a pretty good SEC team. I think number two that has to happen, which is probably more important than number one, is I think, and generally this is kind of how this goes, a player's second year starting is where they make the big growth from year one to year two starting, right? Wingo has got to go from I'm not going to call him he's not a gadget player, but a lot of his expertise comes from his athleticism, not necessarily his ability as a receiver in terms of like catching, running routes, things like that. If he improves in that manner to a pretty decently substantial degree, then I could see a path to that. There's not going to be any way I know until I see week 2 us lining up and Ryan Wingo blowing past Devin Sanchez. That's going to be what tells it to me. Until then, that 2020 Bama offense was a thing of legend, right? And I just don't know if I'm ready to sit here and say this receiver room could be like that.
And man, that's another point that that y'all covered that great. They had a little different run game than Texas has had in the last couple of years. They also had a Steve Sarkisian who was just kind of putting his new wrinkles with the orbit motion and some of the RPO stuff, the cheat motion and all that. A lot of stuff that college football and defensive coordinators hadn't seen yet. And so I think this Texas offense, with all the speed, the talent there is a wide receiver, with hopefully Archer's growth, with the play at tackles, you might see an offense that, again, could be the best under Steve Sarkisian at Texas, likely will be the best under Steve Sarkisian at Texas. But man, that to that extent, to that degree, like what 2020 Alabama did was, again, pretty dang special, man. I don't know if Texas is any, close to repeating that. Maybe the talent in the wide receiving room, maybe that you can't compare that. But yeah, that they were dialed in on in every facet. They could run the ball. They did what they wanted on offense. They'd hit you with a flurry of points early, and then they'd sit there and just lean on you with the ground game and beat you up. Mac Jones is throwing against a lot of man coverage, single high safety at time because they're able to run the ball. They could line up in 12 personnel, which Texas really couldn't or cannot do. Need to see them do it. Would love to see them do it.
Well, and another underrated aspect of that is these were all guys who were in that system for years, right? This was before the NIL portal era, right? The portal era, right? Like these guys were guys who, at least 2 years, they knew the offense. They'd been planning the offense. They had understood all their assignments. The offensive line, there was at least a cohesion aspect to it that these guys have been playing together for 2 or 3 years. So, I don't think we're ever going to see that again, simply because I think we are to a point to where there's so much player movement that the first 6 or so games, you're just not going to see that type of offensive output. But stranger things have happened, right? I'm not there yet. I can't see it. Just can't yet. Which we don't need it. We don't need that. It'd be nice to have it. We'd be beating people by 20. But I'm not there yet.
I will say, being by anyone by 20 sounds nice after the way that 2025 went. It felt like every game was more of a game than it probably should have been.
Yeah.
I definitely think, with everything we've talked about, with the fact that, it's Sark's second year, with this Sark's going into year 6, he's knocked on the door, as you guys have said, there is a different amount of pressure in Austin. And again, a lot of us said going into 2025, I was like, I talked about growing pains. I didn't think it would look as bad as it did. Full transparency. It didn't.
No.
I thought Texas would make the playoffs. I didn't think they were going to be a 12-0 team, or I didn't think that, at the beginning of the year, I didn't think that they were going to be championship worthy. It had to be shown to me. And I think, I'm right back in that spot this year where it's feel really, really good about a lot of things. Need to see how a few things look here or there. but there's almost just so much talent, especially on this offensive side of the ball, with a lot of experience. Now, it hasn't all played together, you know what I mean? Because obviously you got Siani coming in and play right tackle. You're sliding Baker down. That's going to be new. You got Cam and Arch playing. Yeah, they've got a ton of some experience in college football, but haven't played together. So how does that look? How long does it take to mesh and for them to develop their own rapport? And so, I mean, there's always things that can go wrong. You know what I mean? This is college football. Texas plays 8 straight games to end their regular season, 8 straight conference games. You've got a couple of really tough road trips in there, and you've got a couple of tough teams coming to DKR, and including a big rivalry game. Well, no, the bye's before OU, so including the big rivalry game with OU. So I mean, like it's not going to be easy. I definitely think, like we talked earlier, failure would be to miss the playoffs, and then once we get in the playoffs, for me, failure would be to not win a title, because I think we'll be as talented as anybody, but again, barring injuries, and there just won't be an excuse. No one else is going to give us an excuse. Why should we give them an excuse? But yeah, anything else regarding pressure, schedule, anything about the offseason that you guys want to bring up? Josh, first time here on Inside Texas, you've done a great job, brother.
Well, thank you, man. I mean, we could just start an offensive line discussion and be on here 30 minutes and everyone just hate themselves after it. But I'm not going to subject everyone to that.
You're not happy with going into Arch Manning's second year and just, hey, we know who our O-line, we know who most of our O-line is going to be, but you're not happy that we just, it's not a, 1 through 5, we can rattle off the starters and we know exactly what to expect.
Well, I guess I'm just asking for too much after a season where we had a left guard that was basically a turnstile and couldn't move anyone on Sam Houston State defensive line.
Which one?
Yeah, I won't say his name, but his name rhymes with Saunders Crow. That's what, and he's at Kansas right now. He should be never allowed in Texas again. But nice kid, I'm sure, great family. His mom seems sweet, but the fact that it took until 2 weeks after the portal closed and we got a guy at left guard who we think's probably going to be eligible, but maybe not. And then we're leaving it up to a left guard position that, we have a guy from Oregon State who started 6 games and was in and out of the starting lineup, and then a redshirt freshman who we're not sure is ready. I mean, what could go wrong? What could go wrong? And then the right guard's a guy who's never played guard. So, I mean, what could go wrong?
Hey, I get it, man. And again, it's hard to just say, oh, hey, I trust them, RE, the staff. I trust those guys when, definitely had a lot of trust in them going into this last season. And again, it's not that the trust has gone fully. It's just hard to sit there and be like, oh, yeah, I know they're going to put out something that's competent. They're going to put out a product that the rest of the skill talent deserves. But yeah, again, we could talk about O-line and have a lot of fun. I think all Texas fans, all Texas media, they're going to feel the same way. It's going to be kind of prove it. Show it to me. Okay. You feel good about the O-line? Great. Inside Texas feels great about the O-line. Cool. Let me see it. You're going to go to the spring game. No one's even going to watch Arch. Everyone's just going to have binoculars, going to be dialed in on every offensive lineman. What do those guys look like? What are you saying, Nash?
I probably didn't have anything to add on, but now that Josh has brought up some really dark areas in my brain, I would just say, man, it's just with the amount of offensive linemen that we had coming to visit, and it looks like we're in a pretty good spot. And there was a tackle that looked like we're in a really good spot with, and then he ends up going to a rival. At a certain point, we got to start asking if there's recruiting issues.
Wait, which one? Which one are you talking about?
Are you talking about last cycle?
Yeah, I'm talking about Fiduciary.
Fiduciary, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean,
but I'm just saying at a certain point, you got to start asking if there's recruiting issues. If a certain coach has an issue with the recruiting.
We've been asking.
I mean, this is. I mean, have you been? And then that doesn't even every offensive line thread I'm on and just saying some egregious stuff. I mean, look, the Fiduciary thing, whatever. That's forgivable. Ojo dodged maybe the world's biggest bullet. But I go back to 20. I go back to John Mills. Why couldn't we keep that guy? If we had John Mills, we're a playoff team. Oh my God. Like, we could have paid him a crap ton of money. Instead, what we decided to do was pay the guy who started 2 games at left guard money, and then he left to go to Alabama because he was mad that we weren't going to pay him even more than we were paying him. So there's a recruiting aspect to it. There's also an evaluation aspect to it.
Well,
right?
I like we've talked about before, Cord, on this show. It just one of the things that bewildered me was everybody, including me, who hardly knows anything about football. Right? We're sitting here, we're like, okay, well, the starting lineup, it just seems obvious. When we got to the point where we're in fall camp, where we know what we have, and we got to go with that. The starting lineup felt obvious, and it took us until Vanderbilt to get that starting offensive line. And then lo and behold, when you get to Vanderbilt, it's like, okay, that's the first point where we felt, oh wow, our offensive line just doesn't feel like a complete, hole in the scheme, right? Like, to me, it just, I don't know how it took us. I don't know how in the Florida game we didn't sit there and go, you know what, let's just maybe throw Hudson, who's got a ton of experience at left guard. Let's maybe throw him in there, and let's throw Robertson at center. Let's just see how that works out. No, we got to wait 6 more games for us to get to that point. There's a lot of questions I have in offensive line.
The Florida bye week, we had a bye week going into that, and how that was.
We had 2 weeks to prepare for a 4-8 team.
How that was handled, what lack of prep, or when I say I have trust issues with the current staff, that is what it's from. I'm grateful. Yeah. I'm appreciative of the work they've done, but the trust-o-meter was way the hell up here. And then you have performances like that. You have coaching efforts like that. Defense was very, very unprepared. Again, that scheme was laughably bad. But then the offense, dialing up the deep shots after deep shots when there is no run game to get people to, fake and bite on play action, and there is no pass protection, so you can't get out into these deep routes. There were so many times where you see Arch take a shot and he throws the ball, and there's just a receiver running with not a single gator within 12, 15 yards around him. And it was like, oh, it's sick. Should have worked. But you got to be able to block that type of stuff. You know what I mean? And so that performance, you know what I mean? Again, that's what kept Texas out of the college football playoffs.
No.
But I wasn't mad about the way we schemed up Ohio State.
No.
Mad about lack of execution.
No, not at all.
No.
And honestly, if Arch Manning doesn't have what we can probably, sum up to the yips now, he doesn't have that, then we probably win that game by a good margin. And that also goes into the conversation that we had about quality wins and losses. It's not like Texas went on the road and got just demolished by Ohio State on the road early in the season. That was a pretty damn close game, and we had the ball at the end. We had a shot to go out there and win the game. We came away with the loss by 7 points. Right, it is what it is. But to me, it would probably be the most Texas thing in the world. With what we've seen on the offensive line, that we go see Neto Umeozulu go out there and be some all-world left guard, goes out there, becomes an all-pro in the NFL. Well, we just refuse to play him.
Well, and Cord, you remember this? I came on. We went on to do live stream UI and Pack, or you, me and Pack. That was terrible grammar. After that Florida game. And we just looked like we were, just got out of the trenches in, World War I. It was like, oh my God, it was just. And here's, we're having this, we're doing this again. The issue's not the tackles, right? Baker was fine at the beginning of the season. He was bad, but he got to be, above average plus, right? And great, good. It's been the guards for years. It's been the interior offensive line for years.
2024 was the right tackle.
Well, yeah. Well, Ken was okay for the start.
Well, he was also good for just drive killing whenever we didn't.
Well, no, that's just being a right tackle at the University of Texas. That's not unique to Cam Williams. That is like I expect Melvin Siani to have 7 penalties a game. Yeah, he is going to be the most penalized player in the league by far. But it's the guards. We can do it. I swear to God, if we win a national, I'm not going to do that. But if we win a national championship, there should be a giant 20-foot statue of what's his name, Lawrence Seymour, right in front of DKR, because he is going to be like, I mean, he will be like my new guy. Like, I will fund the statue personally if we win the national championship, because we have like, and he doesn't even have to be that good. He can stand there and just be like Jello and just absorb hits so long as Arch doesn't get hit. I don't care. So, you know, Lawrence Seymour, come on down, man. If you're watching this, you're my guy.
And also, on the way.
To the judges, please rule another year of eligibility for a certain offensive lineman. I beg of you.
Yeah, that would be a start. And again, because that's where my big issue with the O-line is, I don't want you to stand in there and absorb hit at a guard. Every now and then we need to be able to put your butt in the run game, and you can go move a body. You can be physical at the point of attack, and you can just, hey, let's get to the second level. I feel like we don't do that very often, especially on the interior. Getting up to the second level, not successfully at least. Sometimes we do it after we tripped and stumbled a little bit. But
you know what we should do? We should pay every team to get Albert Regis and Torian York, and put them at defensive line and guard, and then we'll finally get a push under the second level. And then, you know, we'll have a linebacker who takes 20 pages of notes but doesn't know how to fill a run gap. But, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to, again, not to make it a comparison, but, man, Quinn would have been in some deep trouble.
Yeah, my sweet Quinn would have been.
I love
Quinn. He would have been in
Quinn
coma. He would have been in a coma.
You know what that would have been like? That would have been like 2017 Shane Buechele, who just absolutely, going back to the Maryland game, that's when I knew we were in deep water, was when you had an offensive lineman completely not an offensive. No, thinking back to this, I mean, I'm at least grateful that we're not in the position where we're converting defensive linemen into starting offensive linemen. That's probably as low as you can go, and we were there in 2017. But
if you put Josiah Sharma at left guard last year, I think he does better than Connor Stroh does. Sorry.
Damn. I mean,
come on. We're you know, Eric got mad, not mad, but you know, Eric was like, you know, there's a loss. There was one of the live streams, you know, I was like, what loss is there with Connor Stroh? And he goes, you know, he was a good guy, and it's always hard to let people go. And it's like, you know, this is a business at this point. These guys are getting paid. Like, I don't give a shit about feelings anymore. Like, oh, like, great, he's a good program guy. Like, if he's like a turnstile, I don't care. I just don't care.
Joshy, open quotes, hates program guys, close quotes. Manning, we got to W that. You've been knighted. No, I mean, I get it, man. Like, and that's the thing. That's where it's such a weird time for old school, for, you know, us guys that just for so long, it was like you follow recruiting, every single name that comes onto that roster. It's like you love them like they're your own. And now all of a sudden, you know, it's much more of a pro-related business where there's going to be massive roster changes, and it's going to be every single year, and you're going to see it throughout the school year and the school calendar. And it's like, okay, you can't get too attached. It's tough. I get it. You know what I mean? And again, root for these guys. I genuinely, when they leave, I'm not rooting against them. A lot of these guys are great guys. I'm sure they wish they performed a little bit better. And then again, some of these guys, I'm like, man, I'm 6 foot, about 170. I don't know if I should be judging anybody's O-line play, because I don't know if I could stand in front of anybody.
Size also doesn't matter. While we're on this whole thing, because there's a certain type that Kyle Flood likes to go after. And I'm just Kyle Flood would have never recruited this name right here, Casey Studdard. Where's my Casey Studdard? Right?
I thought you were pointing at me. I was like, what the no. Slander.
Where's my Dan Neal? Where's my Casey Studdard? Right? Just sometimes dudes are dogs, and they're undersized, right? But I just. Yeah. Well,
he broke the mold though. Turn time's not. Turn time is different. Yeah. I mean, Nash, you were sitting there just giving. I mean, like, my lord, you were just giving us some quotes there. No, like I agree with you on that. Like, you have to have nasty. You got to have some. You know, you got to have some lateral movement. And like, I know I've been picking on, you know, our guy Stroh. I hope he does great. I hope he goes on to be a brain surgeon and makes a ton of money and has a beautiful wife and a lot of kids and a great house. You know, God bless him. I'll see him in the kingdom one day. I just, like, you know, we got to win, man. And that just wasn't it. So, yeah, I'm Lawrence Seymour. And here's the deal too. If Jordan Coleman gets the spot, then that means he's a dog. If he beats out a 6th-year senior to get that spot, like that means he's a freaking dog. Like I like the fact that I'm good with that. I like if Coleman beats out Sikorsky, great, like cool, awesome. So then you're left guard too. But if he beats out Seymour, then I'm like, okay, there may be something there. That could be the first ever, high draft pick guard. I mean, when was the last time Kyle Flood had a guard that got drafted in the first 3 rounds? When was Y2K? When was Y2K?
I say I'd have to go back and look at those Alabama lines. Again, man,
I mean, that's not even really Kyle Flood. That's just more of him like adopting
product
really
of the
offensive lineman.
Saban recruiting world. It's like it doesn't matter what position coach is there. It's like they're just gonna crush it for a little while there at least. I mean, and again,
it's Holloman Wiggins, man. Oh, did I say that out loud? Oh my God, I can't believe I did that.
That's all, man. Yeah, man, Josh. All right, guys, we're gonna let everyone get out of here.
Yep.
It's been fun, and again, we could have this conversation about the O-line, and it could last forever if you really, really wanted it to. I reserve my right to, for judgment until the season's here. I'll see what we're looking like. I'll see what decisions are made. But again, man, I think we all kind of know what it is with the O-line. We need to see a better coached unit. We need to see a unit that performs better. It's not just on Coach Kyle Flood. And again, I think Sark knows that. And so seems that you're obviously they're taking a little bit different points of attacks when it comes to culture here in the offseason, when it comes to strength and conditioning, things like that. And we talked about it on the show the other night. Got to be a better disciplined team and some better O-line play, better communication, all those good things. They all make a big difference. John, appreciate you being here. Thanks for all the fun comments.
Thank you, John.
Chris Bennett, we appreciate you in here. I'm not going to put your last comment on there, so I don't want to think we're slandering Coach Flood. But yeah, he did get his extension. But yeah, for Joshy, Nash, and myself, we'll see you guys next time on Inside Texas. Thanks for watching.